Do you have any just stories from times being involved in the newspaper that you like to share? Like any just really interesting standout moments or achievements that you like to, let people know about for future generations, particularly focused on journalists?
Well, Siegenthaler was and is a great journalist. He's, is now the founder of the First Amendment Center, which was financed by Gannett Corporation, and he has become an expert on the First Amendment, and Vanderbilt sponsors the First Amendment Center. It's a part of the Vanderbilt institution, and a very, very, very important vehicle in America, the First Amendment Center, really started by John Siegenthaler. And I assume, have you interviewed John Siegenthaler yet about this, or are you going to interview him?
Someone is, yes. I'm working with multiple people, but somebody will be interviewing him.
Yeah, he's at the heart of the matter. Amon, unfortunately, is dead, and too bad, because as I say, he owned the piano. He's the one who put me in business, made me the general counsel of the newspaper, helped me run for governor. He also put Siegenthaler in business, made him the editor. And Amon was a remarkable man, and a brilliant man, and he had the great good fortune of inheriting that newspaper. And his mother made him the publisher, and he was a friend of the public's. That newspaper was conducted with the public interest in mind. And the essence of power is, are you going to use it in an intelligent and useful way? And I'm convinced that Amon Evans was trustworthy with power, and he used it in an intelligent and useful way. Now, he had his critics because he was a partisan, but notwithstanding the fact he was a partisan, he was a fair and sensible man, and advocated things that he was convinced were in the best interest. And we were so deeply involved in the monitoring of the public situation that there were a lot of close calls in which you had to come down on one side of an issue or another side of the issue, and these close calls provoked deep conversations in which we learned about the character of each other, and involved in our sense of responsibility and what direction we wanted to take the newspaper, and what kind of things we wanted to do and didn't want to do, what things we were going to fight for, and what kind of things we were going to fight against. And this circumstance involved three men, all of whom were actually really four men, because my brother was involved in it too. His name is Henry Hooker, and he was very much involved in it. And so there was basically Henry Hooker, my brother, and myself, Amon Evans, who owned the paper, John Siegenthaler, who was the editor. The four of us basically were a small group of four who were great personal friends and had a common goal, a common understanding as to what we could and wanted to do. We had a lot of backup. This fellow Bill Willis, who was a member of my brother in my law firm, turned out to be Hooker and Willis, and ultimately Knight was also very much involved. Al Knight was a first-class lawyer and became a real scholar on the subject of the First Amendment. And so it was we were all immersed in it. It wasn't just a job. It was a way of life. It was a way of thinking. It was a 24-hour-a-day partnership to try to do something that affected the destiny not only of the city but of the state, and to whatever degree we could of the country itself. And as I say, it was born in the proposition that we all knew that so to speak, that Amon owned the piano, that it was his vehicle. It was that gave us the opportunity to play and do our thing. But he shared it totally, and gave us all an opportunity to participate in the music, so to speak, and communicating with the public. Give me some time here, and I can think of some anecdotes involved in this because we had a lot of laughs and a lot of fun, a lot of stress. We championed causes, that some of which were embraced by the public in general, some of which the public didn't foster, and we had such hard-fought fights. The election for governor was so hard-fought. Election for mayor involving Fulton and Losa was such a hard-fought situation. And had it not been for the personal camaraderie of all of us, I don't think we could have ever done as much as we did. But it was based upon a teamwork partnership that enabled us to function as a team, speaking with one voice and effectively.
What changes in, say, the Tennessean and other, Nashville outlets have you seen in, say, the past 10 years?
Well, I'm disappointed to say that I've been greatly disappointed in that newspaper. The whole idea of corporate ownership of local press. There's a drastic difference between having a local owner like Eamon Evans and a corporation that's interested in that has publicly traded stock and is interested in the bottom line. It becomes a business. Eamon Evans didn't run it as a business that was determined to make money. It did make money, but that was just incidental. He ran it as a business that had a public function, whereas Gannett runs it on the basis of making money, and as a consequence, it doesn't have the same clout, it doesn't have the same energy, it doesn't have the same local flavor. It's not managed by people who own it. It's not managed by people who lived in Nashville. It's managed by people who are brought in here by a corporation who don't own the newspaper, and there's not that pride that we had in the newspaper, and nor is there the responsibility that Eamon Evans and Siegenthaler and myself had. We were identifiable local characters that were immersed in the community with many friends on both sides of the aisle, most of whom were Democrats, but many of whom were Republicans, and we were accountable to the people. Whereas Gannett is sort of this way off power that owns many newspapers, many television stations, and the like, and the Tennessean is just one of them, and it's run by people who have very little historic memory of Nashville. They don't really know what happened years gone by. They run it on a basis that is different from they didn't have the same mission, the same character, same identity, and it's frankly nothing like as good a newspaper, either from the reader's point of view or from the point of view of the oversight of government. It doesn't have the same influence with the people. It doesn't have the same facility to tilt one way or another public opinion, or to use the power to keep government from misbehaving, government from functioning from malfunctioning, as opposed to function in a more useful way. So there's a drastic difference between the local owned newspaper with Eamon Evans and John Siegenthaler and a newspaper that's run by people who are not Nashvillians and who don't have any of the background tradition of the past.
It's interesting you should say that, because it's almost exactly what this is about, getting that history.
Sir?
I said it's interesting you say that, because this project is about getting that history, the importance of that, these stories, the history of the Nashville, like you're saying, the historical knowledge.
Well, it's so important, the historical knowledge, and the Tennessean had an identity and a character and a mission and an ongoing relationship and because it was locally owned and locally run, it had a different flavor than presently exists. And so interestingly enough, Siegenthaler was very fortunate to have survived the change because he had testified before the Congress in opposition to chain newspapers, and then ultimately ended up not only being the editor of the Tennessean, but then after the Gannett bought the Tennessean, Al Newhart, who was the CEO of Gannett, started the USA Today and made Siegenthaler the first editorial page editor of USA Today. Siegenthaler stayed there for several years and came back then and went back with the Tennessean. And hopefully, and you say you will, interview Siegenthaler because he knows as much or more about it than anybody else, having been at the centerpiece of the transition of power and having worked in the context of the locally owned paper versus the corporately owned